Hey, what's up, guys? My name is GiftyUnedited and hope you're all having a wonderful day today. And really sorry for not uploading for a year and a half, 2 years, but I'll get back to that at the end of the video so as to not take up any of your time right now. But what I want to talk about right now is, just to put it simply, buying things. And, well, about how we buy things and what makes us buy the things we buy, in a way. And well, what got me thinking about this topic was an ad I saw on Instagram a few days ago where I saw an ad for a computer hardware store. And if you haven't heard of it, it's basically kind of like NCIX or Memory Express if you ever watched Linus. But you go in there, you pick out the computer hardware you want, a CPU, a GPU, memory, whatever you need to build a computer, upgrade your current computer, and you can either assemble it yourself or you can get someone to assemble it for you. It's a fairly common thing, I think, at least it's common in my circle, and you can learn more about it if you want on channels like Linus Tech Tips, Austin Evans, I think he still does that, and a few others. But anyways, I digress. Getting back to the topic, this computer hardware store was selling awfully mismatched parts. I mean, I'm not gonna get into the technicals here, but for instance, they sold a computer that was fitted with a Ryzen 5800X and a 3060. I mean, for those of you who know what that means, it's awfully mismatched. I mean, the CPU is going to be extremely bottlenecked, and I think the worst instance of this was where someone paired a Core i5, Intel Core i5, with a $300, or I think $250, well, extremely expensive, Lianli 360mm cooler. I mean, this cooler is probably in the same ballpark as the whole processor itself, and there's no way a Core i5 would need a 360mm water cooler. A good enough air cooler, like a Noctua, or maybe even a 120mm water cooler, that could do the trick. You don't need to spend this much money for a Core i5. I mean, I still find it absurd. It's insane. And I pretty much came to the conclusion that most likely this computer hardware store, who I'm not gonna name right now, probably is selling this hardware in such a mismatched manner so as to empty stock that isn't selling, maybe high-end stock that isn't selling right now because of the whole GPU prices thing, or maybe just stock that isn't in demand so much, just clear out stock and also sell extremely high value markup products where they have the highest margins so as to make the most profit and sell this to unsuspecting clients. And yes, pretty scummy to me, but I think what's also pretty weird is how the people who are buying from this store, I mean, some of them are paying like thousands of dollars. I mean, there was this one computer I saw with a 3970X and a 3080 Ti, which was just as mismatched. I mean, not these two components, but the reason this computer was built, I don't think you need a computer like this for that. And yeah, these parts would run you in the neighborhood of a few $1,000s. I mean, you're spending that kind of money on a computer. I would hope that you would know what you're buying and why you're buying it, and if the reason you're buying it works out and checks out with the parts you're buying. And that just got me thinking about the whole concept of smart consumerism. I mean, my guess is a lot of the people who bought from this store probably bought it from the store because they saw the ad and they're like, well, a bunch of people bought from this store, so you know what? Sounds like, how bad can it be? Sounds like a good enough idea. And well, as it turns out, it wasn't a good enough idea. I mean, for instance, when I'm shopping for, let's say, clothes, computer hardware, even games to a certain extent, video games, let's say if I was in the market for a car even, recently I bought a drum kit. I didn't just go to the first musical shop I saw, the most popular musical shop I saw on Instagram, and said, you know what, bun it. This is the place I'm going to buy my drums from. I'm not going to check what the market value for them is. I'd go to that shop, I'd go to another shop, I'd go to maybe 5-10 different shops, depending on how expensive it was. And on top of that, maybe even do my own online research and see whether or not it's worth it to get this specific drum set. To me, it's just best practice. It's just smart consumerism. I research what I buy, and if it's a sizable chunk of my money, I would do as much research as I possibly can before making a decision. And I just don't see that in people like this who just go to one store and buy, well, anything for this much. I don't get it. But I think most people know that you shouldn't just go to one store and shop without looking around. I think most people know that. hopefully they do, but in smart consumerism, there's also the concept of known or should have known, right? Like, you should know why you're spending the money. Like, if you want to play Minecraft on a 3090 Ti, go for it. It's your choice, but I think you should know that you don't need a 3090 Ti, so you can make the informed decision that I can play Minecraft on a 3050 as well, if that's all I want to play, and save a bunch of money. If you still buy a 3090 Ti, I think you're well within your rights to do that, but I think you should know that you have alternatives, But yeah, there's obviously the concept of you should know or should have known what you buy. But it's also more and more I've seen recently in general, people getting caught up in these hype trains. I mean, for instance, most people who probably buy from this specific computer store I'm mentioning probably buy from there because it's extremely popular on Instagram, so you'd assume, well, if it's popular it must be good, right? And, well, generalizing a bit more, I mean, currently most of you guys probably have heard about the whole Luna and Terra cryptocurrency incident where people lost, I think, $45 billion collectively, and other just, hype trains that turned out to be scams, your Theranos of the world, your Nicholas of the world. All of these scams, to me, it just seems more and more, hype trains. I think that's pretty much what I put it down to, the bandwagon effect. So I'm not a crypto guy, but asking a lot of my friends who are invested in crypto and just doing a little bit of my own research, which admittedly isn't a lot, but from whatever I could find and understand, I think, as far as I know and as far as I've been told, it was avoidable because the way Luna and Terra was set up to be interconnected is one could have predicted that a spiral like this would have happened. A death spiral, it's called, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. I heard it from a Cold Fusion video, I think. I'll link it down in the description if you want to learn more about it. But not just this, I mean, Theranos, the whole $9 billion medical diagnostic scam that was done pretty much through charisma, and the Nicholas scam, I mean, so many, I could probably name tens more, BitConnect, that was insanely popular way back. There's a lot more scams popping up recently, I think, through the internet. It's much easier to spread them, which is weird. I mean, I just keep thinking, like, day by day, there's so many more incidents you find out, so many more products, so many more services that aren't what they claim to be. They're just, they scam you, they get in, they market a bunch of things, and then they take your money and they leave or get arrested, whatever the case may be. And I started wondering, I mean, all the examples I've given right now, I think can be attributed to two things, is charismatic leaders and the bandwagon effect. I mean, just take Elizabeth Holmes, for example, or Trevor Milton, I mean, Elizabeth Holmes, the technology she was touting as the future of medicine, most people knew that was impossible with the technology we had at that time. But, she was a smooth talker. She put on a much lower voice. She put on a very charismatic figure in front of all her shareholders, and she knew which strings to pull and how to convince the people on the board and how to convince the buyers to get them to buy into a scam. Look at Trevor Milton. He doesn't have the technology on hand, or at least as far as I know. No hydrogen fuel cells that can run that many miles. No electric motors that can do that many more cycles than Tesla. I mean, I think most, like, even a little bit of surface level research, like just in a few documents alone, you'll be able to tell that no, Nikola Motors is nothing to substantiate the claims they're making. But you know what? Trevor Milton is a hell of a charismatic guy. I mean, look at the press conference he had. Like, yeah, no wonder people believe that. No wonder Bosch, no wonder General Motors believed him. It's insane how much you can get away with charisma, but I still don't think it's right. Taking the word of the inventor, the word of the founder at face value and just not looking into it. I mean, so many big companies just fell for, Trevor Milton, Elizabeth Holmes, the charisma, just the fact that they sounded knowledgeable, the fact that they're too big to fail, the fact that they sound friendly, they sound charming, and you go for that over, hard facts, over the papers, over the evidence. You don't look at that, you just look at the founder and say, oh, well, this can't go wrong. And I think that's a bad approach. I think no matter how charismatic someone is, you should look at the facts and not just the things the founder is saying. And maybe that's what caused a lot of people to fall into the scam. Maybe the founder of Luna, in how charismatic and confident he seemed, convinced enough people to invest into it that, for a while it was successful, But it's not just that. I think it's also once you get a few people on board, a few very vocal people on board, I think you'll have a bunch of people jump on the bandwagon for a number of reasons. There's obviously the bandwagon effect in and of itself, but I think there's also the fear of missing out. I mean, I don't want to get into NFTs too much, but I think a lot of people are investing into NFTs because they don't want to miss out on the next big thing. A lot of people are getting to Web 3.0 for the same reason. And I'm not going to say whether or not NFTs are good or bad, at least in their current form. I think that is a topic for another video. But I think a lot of these psychological factors are causing people to invest in something they might not necessarily know enough about to make an informed decision. And yes, some people might think that some things are too big to fail, and then they turn out to not be too big to fail. They turn out to crash and burn and, ruin $45 billion collectively, which is to me just insane. And all of this I just feel like could be avoided with proper research, just could be avoided by, the basic principles of smart consumerism, could be avoided by, well, the fact that you should know what you're buying into, the fact you should look into all the opinions before you buy or invest in something. I feel like this could have avoided potentially tens or hundreds of disasters in the past few years alone. But hindsight's 2020. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Luna and Terra thing could not have been foreseen, for all I know, and I could be wrong on that bit. But yeah, those are just my 2 cents. Let me make this 100% clear. None of the reasons I've mentioned, even if you're not a smart consumer, even if you make a bad buying choice, I still don't think that justifies the scammers, or that takes the scammers off the hook. I think what they're doing is awful and they shouldn't do that in the first place. But I think a lot of this could be avoided if, as consumers, we decided to be smarter with our choices, started to put our money where our mouths are. And I think in the end it comes down to that. Yes, scamming's wrong. Controversial opinion, I know. While I definitely am not saying this is right, I also don't think they're entirely to blame. I think the people who invested in it maybe have to take some part of it onto themselves, or maybe maybe I'm completely talking out my ass. Maybe I'm an idiot and I'd like to hear why, because in the end these are my 2 cents and I could very well be wrong. I'd like to know yours on this issue down in the comments below. What do you think about smart consumerism? Do you think yes, there's some responsibility to the consumer as much as to the producer, or no, it's all down to the producer? It doesn't matter what choice you make, you buy with some expectations, and even if you're not fully informed on said expectations, they should be met regardless. But yeah, that's it for me. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the video. Leave me any constructive criticism or any criticism in general. And if you really like this video, subscribe for more videos like this in the near future, hopefully. But yeah, that's it for me today, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.